When I had a boss that spoke into me that he saw leadership capability in me when I wasn't even cognizant that I was even a leader, I just started investing in myself, and it was very easy. It was like, okay, well, I got to figure out how to lead. It's reading books, it's listening to podcasts like yours, it's going to conferences, and I really I turned my car into a mobile university. Like, instead of listening to, I love talk radio, I love to keep up with the news, although that can be depressing anymore. But
Sure.
but if I'm investing in myself and trying to get better every day, trying to learn, how I can get better, I think that's the first step. And a lot of times people aren't even thinking of themselves as a leader.
This is Coming Up Clutch with JR, helping the world's best in sports, entertainment, and business make winning a lifestyle.
What's up? It's JR, and welcome to another episode of Coming Up Clutch. Today, we'll be going behind the scenes with Tim Lupinacci. Tim is the chairman and CEO of Baker Donelson, one of the top 100 law firms in the U.S. Tim's a powerhouse in the boardroom, and he's a humble servant at heart. Over the past few years, he's led transformational change in a 100-year-old organization, navigated a global pandemic, and helped turn a company facing declining profits into one that's now experiencing record-breaking growth. But don't let that title fool you. Tim calls himself a leadership junkie, and his obsession with getting better started 30 years ago after blowing it on a major project as a young attorney. Since then, he's devoted his life to helping others discover what it really means to lead, especially in underserved communities. That's why in early 2023, he launched a nonprofit called Everybody Leads, which is the title of his latest book. Tim has a JD from Vanderbilt, a Mass Comm degree from the University of Montevideo, and most importantly, he's been married to his bride for 35 years, and he's also a proud dad. If you care about purpose-driven leadership and family and making an impact that outlives your title, you're going to love this conversation I had with Tim. So today we're going to talk about how leadership is for everyone. We'll get into the work-life balance myth, and we'll also get into what courageous leadership requires. And before I forget, if you're empowered by this show and learning something, make sure to follow us on Apple Podcasts so you don't miss out when we drop new episodes. Just hit that purple plus on the top right-hand corner of the podcast app. When you do that, you make it easier for others who need this content to see it. And of course, share it. Play that hero to your family, friends, and teammates by giving them the link to this or sending them to comingupclutch.com. And when you go and post about this episode on social, make sure to tag me and Tim. All right, here we go. Let's get Tim Lupinacci live on the mic. Tim, my fellow Italian, say what's up to our Coming Up Clutch crew.
JR, I'm so thrilled to be here. What's up, everybody? I'm glad to be here.
All right, so tell everyone how to pronounce your last name correctly.
Lupinacci.
Where in Italy is your family from? Do you know that?
I do. I think you're not supposed to talk about it, but I think from Sicily.
Oh, wait, time out. You're from Southern Italy. Half of my heritage is from Southern Italy. How do I look like this and you look like that? Tell me what happened here.
I know. I mean, I joke about it. I'm Italian in name only because I guess it's so far back. My grandfather looked a little olive-skinned Italian, but my dad didn't. So I don't know. That's amazing.
That's fun. That is funny. Yeah, everyone hears my last name and they're like, wait, are you adopted? Like, what's going on here?
Right.
Oh, fun. Well, Tim, you've been listening to the show, so you know how we roll here. We share an embarrassing moment. So you can share the fact that you almost got hit in the head with your microphone before we started the show, or you can go with something else. But share an embarrassing moment for us.
Yeah, JR, it's funny because I've got so many that I could share, but I thought of one that actually taught me a lesson. Let's say that has helped me to today. When I was in college, I wrote articles for the paper, school paper. I went to a small school, and we didn't have a football team, so homecoming was around the two sides. The college split into two sides, purple and gold, which were our school colors. And you did a 1 hour student written, student led, student orchestrated musical. And you had outside judges come in and judge it. And I was on the gold side, and we had what we thought was an amazing progressive show. We thought clearly we won. And then when it came to the determination of who won, the purple side, the other side won. So being a columnist, I went in and made all like muckraking journalism that is very common today. Probably back in the 80s wasn't as much, talking about all the conspiracy theories that the judges knew the other side's leaders and all this stuff without a lot of basis. And it was, I just had a column I could write about whatever I wanted to. And school papers, if you get one or two letters to the editor, you're thrilled. If you get more, I always thought that you're supposed to pick a couple representative letters to the editor, but they were so thrilled. They got like a dozen letters to the editor. They literally were under a 2-page banner that said Lupinacci's an idiot, and went through all this stuff beating me up. So it really embarrassing, whatever. It was more than embarrassing, but it did teach me the power of our words and just, and particularly, thinking the best of others first and then really digging into things. But the power of words, good, bad, it really does. It can be impactful. It is impactful. So, but a really embarrassing low point of my career.
Well, you learned from it. So that's a
right.
good thing.
Yeah,
that's a good thing.
Right.
So, Tim, we got a lot to get into, and one of the things I was really excited about is the fact that you had a book just come out. It's called Everybody Leads. That title is so perfect in its simplicity. It's so perfect. So, if you could just share with my audience, just kind of tease take 30, 60 seconds to tease what it's about, and then if you're listening to the show today, we're going to link back to it at the end, and obviously the show notes give you access to where to get it. So, Tim, just share real quick what this book is all about.
Yeah, it's just this lessons that I had to learn through, School of Hard Knocks, but that everybody's a leader. You don't have to have a big fancy title, a big corner office, drive a fancy car. We all have influence and impact in how we show up, whether that's in the community, in our family, in the corporate setting, nonprofit setting. And it really taught me, I really had to learn this idea that I was a leader, even though I was young and I didn't have a big title. And so then I knew I had to invest in myself and grow my influence and grow my impact on others. So I really try to unpack that in the book with a lot of practical applications from my own journey of better leading myself and then better leading others.
Well, see, I love the title of your book because it challenges the traditional views of leadership. I mean, it's like people think leadership, they think, CEO.
Right.
They think leader of a team. So, Tim, my audience loves practical tools, so I'm going to throw you right into the fire right out of the gate. If you don't mind, I'd love to, if you could, just share a key principle from the book that, how a spouse and a parent, an executive with a lot of responsibilities, a lot of leadership responsibilities, they could start applying this today. What's the principle that really jumps out at you in this book that everyone can use?
Yeah, and I'll start with my own journey. When I had a boss that spoke into me that he saw leadership capability in me when I wasn't even cognizant that I was even a leader, I just started investing in myself, and it was very easy. It was like, well, I got to figure out how to lead. It's reading books, it's listening to podcasts like yours, it's going to conferences. And I really, I turned my car into a mobile university. Instead of listening I love talk radio. I love to keep up with the news, although that can be depressing anymore. But,
Sure.
but if I'm investing in myself and trying to get better every day, trying to learn, how I can get better, I think that's the first step. And a lot of times people aren't even thinking of themselves as a leader. And I think that's an easy intro is, start getting materials, YouTube, watch TED Talks on leadership and what does that mean? And how can I show up better and be a bigger impact player in what I'm doing day in and day out? So that's a basic, very simplistic, but I think a lot of times we're not investing in ourselves and with time and those type of messages.
So, Tim, you mentioned the good old investment word. Thank you for bringing this up. And again, just if you're listening, Tim and I did not have an agenda to talk and pitch professional services. But Tim, we're in the professional service business. You help people in your arena, and your firm helps people in your arena. I help people in my arena. But the investment word is a paradigm shift for a lot of people because I'll just give you an example. I have the Clutch Club. It's a membership for former athletes who are now executives, leaders, entrepreneurs. I've been on many calls with men in this case who have filled out an application and they want all in. That's what they tell me.
Right.
And then we get to the fee to be part of the group. And most of the time I hear, "Oh, JR, I that's a lot of money. That's a big cost." They're talking in terms of cost. And then I'm going, "Well, wait a minute here. You told me you make over $500,000 a year.
Right.
This is less than 1% of your, what am I missing here?"
Right.
Right, Tim? So I want us to dig deeper in that because
Yep.
I'm seeing, and this is with every elite performer. I mean, even in sports, it's like there is a cost, there is a sacrifice, there is an investment that comes with being the best.
Right.
And being, in this case, in our discussion, a great leader. So, Tim, what do you say to that person who goes, I hear the investment word. I understand, but Tim, I don't have the resources you and JR have to invest in myself.
Yeah, and I'm a firm believer of this idea of investment. And you're right, we didn't talk about this in advance, Jr. It's funny because I did it in my own journey, and if I go back 35 years when I was first thinking of myself as a leader, I didn't have that kind of money to invest, but I invested in myself in smaller ways. And then I could see the ROI on that money, and then it grew bigger and bigger. And I would say, it's all about what you prioritize, right? And it's all about being disciplined, maybe in some areas of life, that you can then invest in someone who's walked where you want to walk, somebody who's had that success that can help you be accountable and be disciplined to hit your goals and ambitions. And with myself, it grew over time. If I go back a decade, I came up and I ended up spending money for a conference I went to that really I was concerned about talking to my wife about it because it was a bigger number than I'd ever invested in myself. But that paid huge dividends. It actually then helped prepare me. I wasn't angling to be the CEO of Baker Donelson at that time, but it helped prepare me for the role, particularly with all the changes and uncertainties of COVID that hit, right? And that those messages from there, so I could see the ROI. And then even more to the point, so then 4 years ago, I got a bigger opportunity where the number was choking me about, do I want to do this for a one-on-one personal coaching? And that's been invaluable and actually led to the book, Everybody Leads. He really stepped up and challenged me and kept me accountable to work on this book. And so, and then you see the ROI on that. So I would say there's a saying from an old song that I love: waters never part until your feet get wet. I think it's the idea of the old, going to the promised land or whatever, you don't step in and then the waters will part to go to the promised land. You have to take that step and you have to believe in yourself. Now, that has to be with a due diligence about what you're investing the money in. I've gotten several opportunities to invest in a coach or whatever over the years, and I look at it and I go, that's not really for me, or they're not where I want to get to. But someone like you, JR, if somebody's like really on the fence of that and they believe in you, I say go for it because you're going to get that return on investment.
100%. And you know what I love too, Tim? It's like with the resources we have today that are free.
Yes.
I mean, okay, if you can't invest the money,
invest the time.
Keyword there. Keyword there, can't.
Right. Right. Because
right. Then invest the time.
Right.
I mean, it just go on YouTube. Go. There's so many great books. One of them, I'm talking to the author of one. Like,
yeah, right.
But if your premise that everybody leads means if you're listening to the show, you are a leader, even though you may think you're not, you are.
Right.
Therefore, with a leadership title and a leader title, you have the responsibility to get better as a leader.
Right. Well, and even, I mean, it is, JR, like you said, there's such, everyone, your listeners are on various parts of their spectrum and their journey, right? And
exactly.
on the early end of the journey, I mean, it may even be with inflation and with all the prices going up. I mean, if I go out to lunch in downtown Birmingham, which is not like, Manhattan, it's going to cost me $20 to have lunch. But if I get lunch meat and bring it in and eat at my desk, now there's a whole story about, never eat alone. I get all that, and I believe in that. But like $20 a day versus if I can get it, bring my lunch in and save $15 a day, that's, what, $75 a week. That's several $100s a month. I mean, you just make those choices. That's what it is. It's a choice. It's a choice to invest in yourself and not invest in something else. So I'm a firm
100%.
believer in it. Yeah.
By the way, we could bust that myth too, Tim. With this thing called Zoom these
Yeah.
days,
Right.
you could go to get the lunch meat, pack your lunch, bring it to the office, and get on Zoom and have lunch with someone that's in California and you're in Birmingham.
Absolutely. Exactly. I mean, I kind of did that today to get with you. It's around our lunchtime. I had my lunch, I ate my lunch, and now we're talking, right?
Yeah. Well, basically what we're getting at, Tim, is there's no excuses in 2025.
Right. That's
Just
right.
get off your stinking butt.
Yeah.
Okay. So here we are, Tim, you, me, my listeners, we're leaders, we're pursuing excellence, we're driven, we're high achievers. You said work-life integration isn't about balance, because I want to bring up this whole work-life balance word that I cringe when I hear it.
Right.
Okay. You specifically said work-life integration isn't about balance, it's about harmony. All right. So I want to put you on the spot with this. Yeah. What does harmony look like? And if you could even share what it looks like in your world too, that'd be great, because we're so driven. People are saying, well, harmony, how can we have harmony if our career is priority number one right now?
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you bringing that up, because it also comes back to another thing of pointing the finger at yourself. Like you're going to invest in yourself. It's the same thing about harmony. We have to show up as our best selves, and so we got to take care of ourselves, right? And we got to have opportunities where we are spending that time. It's that disciplined time of downtime, of time to invest in ourselves through reflection and getting outside and walking. Maybe you have boundaries of when you're online. And I work as hard as anybody. I try to lead by example. I'm putting in huge weeks, but then huge hours every day leading this organization. But I try to be very disciplined. I try not to look at my phone before 7 a.m. and I get up around 4:30 or 5. So I'm doing some of my reading and journaling and getting outside and running before that, and then I'm on, right, and I'm going full stop, and then I try to shut down that around 8 o'clock, not look at emails, so that I can then get a good night's sleep, right, and get refreshed and energized. And then I build in, I've talked about this before. I try to do a 24-hour Sabbath from the iPhone and being online from like Saturday at 5 to Sunday at 5. Now, my colleagues, they know how to get me by text. I will look at a text if it comes in. But I need that time to reflect, to re-energize, to do hobbies. And that makes me so much more effective and engaged and energetic when I'm then diving into the big, hairy problems I'm trying to deal with. So I think it's another one of those things. You have to invest in yourself in the time. One of my mentors said you have to have staring out the window time, where you're just thinking and trying to really again, we've got the problems are more complex, right? Today, there's so much more uncertainty.
100%.
There's no rule book for it about, or playbook about how to deal with all this. And so I personally need it. Now, then other people say, oh, you're so disciplined, you're so good, whatever. But that's helping me be this really high performer and achieving things like writing a book while I'm running a $500 million enterprise. When other people, how do you do that? Well, I'm disciplined in how I'm doing things. And so that's how I try to build that harmony. And if I get out of harmony, I mean, using that word, then I'm not as good for my colleagues, and I can just muddle through the day and not get as much done. So I'm a firm believer in this too.
So I hope my listener picked up on this, but I am going hard in the paint with this one, Tim, because this is a conversation that comes up all the time, especially with my executives and CEOs like yourself.
Yeah.
You said your weekend time, you're pretty much shut off. However, I hope my audience caught this. You said, well, if a colleague needs to get a hold of me, they could text me. Am I reading between the lines that you have a communication strategy built in that, like, look, guys, if there's issues X, Y, and Z, get a hold of me right away, just text me. But everything else, it's it's waiting till Monday. Did I read between the lines here?
No,
Do
no,
you
that
have something in place like that?
I do, and it's our executive team. So like our COO and our CFO and our chief of staff, if they need to get me, they know that. But yeah, that's right. And I will say, um, I am working right now. One of my priorities is to even elevate our executive communication plan on a lot of levels. But you're exactly right. That is one part of it. To give me, because and you have to have the A players in those other positions, right? Because a lot of times they're just taking care of stuff. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and that gives me that bandwidth. And then I need to give them some bandwidth where I know they're going to be out of pocket. And I
Yeah.
don't do that. I mean, it's 24 hours on a weekend, so a lot of times on Saturday morning, that's a lot of catch up time and a lot of
Sure.
running and thinking. So I am working some, but then it's like I'm just trying to shut out for at least a 24-hour period every week. And that's what worked for me. It may not work for you. It may not work for your listeners. But absolutely, you got to have a team in order to be able to then disconnect for a little bit.
Well, and your team doesn't necessarily have to be a human either.
Well, that's
There's
true.
there's this thing on the iPhone. I don't know for Android users, you freaks. I can't believe anyone uses an Android these days. Tim, you don't use an Android, do you?
No, I've got an
Okay, good.
iPhone. Yep.
Phew. This interview almost ended prematurely. Do not disturb
Yep.
on the iPhone. You know, so it's funny, Tim. You mentioned, hey, that may not work for you. And my pushback always when I hear JR, that may work for you, but it's never going to work for me. My pushback is always, could you at least try?
Right. And don't
Because
start. Yeah. Go ahead.
Go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, you don't have to start. I was going to say, and what I meant more, the Saturday from 5 to Sunday at 5 may not work for you. You got to figure out what works for you. And it could be start with an hour, or start with like just trying to shut the iPhone down or on do not disturb at 8 p.m. at night or 9 p.m. at night, whatever. Start in that little step and you'll see that. Anyway, sorry I interrupted you, but yes.
But that's just it, Tim. Like, I feel like the easy route is to make an excuse. Right. And again, you have the spotlight on you, but I need to share the conversation because I had this conversation a lot. I said, typically the excuse is coming from the current version of you. Mm-hmm. You tell me that you're trying to pursue and unlock the best version of you. So what if you put in a constraint or put in a strategy or put in a barrier that was more aligned with that person versus the current version of you? And that's typically when I get pure silence.
Right.
But that's the point we're trying to make here. If you're listening to the show, like experiment with something, because I get it all the time. Jared, there's no way I'm in private equity. There's deals are running all the time. Jared, if I miss this call, I'm going to lose this deal. Really?
Yeah.
How do you know?
Right. Well, and
I feel like we're not exploring that question enough. We're not exploring the question enough. How do you know? Have you even tried anything?
Right. Try. Yeah. And I will say this is almost like a money back guaranteed, although I don't have any money for being on here today. But I have found that even if it's a snippet of an hour or a couple hours, or if it's that 24 hours, there are things that are coming up to my mind as I have now disconnected that are helping me that solve problems. I'm not sitting there saying, okay, I'm taking the Sabbath from my devices, but I'm just working. No, I'm out walking or I'm with my family or I'm, sitting in church and some idea is like, oh, that's going to help that. And I make little notes to myself. So I'm actually making progress in my downtime because my mind's kind of freed up a little bit to really think about these things. And it happens every weekend that I do this.
It's such a good point because that's just how our brain likes to work. Yeah. It looks for clues. There's this concept out there. I don't know. Have you ever heard of the whole MacGyver effect?
Oh, yes, I have.
Yeah. So the whole MacGyver effect, whereas like if you're just struggling to find the answer to something or figure something out, write down so by the way, this is another free tip for my audience, right? Write down what you're struggling with as a question and then put it down for 24 hours. Mm-hmm. Your brain's going in the background searching for clues to get that answer. And it may not be in the state you're in or the industry you're in. It may be for something, like you said, walking your dog.
Right. Yeah.
All of a sudden, oh yeah. but we can't get to your point, Tim. We can't get there if we're constantly on 24/7 with our disciplines.
And then we're
And I
exhausted.
mean, work.
Yeah.
Yep. Gosh dang. See, Tim, we got to hang out more often, man. We're on the same page here, my friend.
I'm coming to Orlando. I want to hang out. Yeah, this is amazing.
All right. We're going to hang out. 2 Italian attorneys hanging out. Okay, never mind.
There's a joke
All
there,
right?
right?
So there
2
is a
Italian
joke there.
attorneys and a new pope walks into
But I always say to my practicing attorney friends, you're the real attorney. I'm just the guy who's got the diploma and had a couple years in the tank.
Although I'm not
I'm
not practicing anymore either, so we're probably both blood-like in that.
So we're even more dangerous is what you're telling me.
That's right.
So
That's right.
Tim, I really wanted to get to this topic with you because it's always a big one for me. And, it's really easy to see some of my guests on the show, and in your case, CEO, chairman, Baker Donelson, major law firm, billion-dollar firm, failure. Failure is a big topic for me because, people see my guests and hear these conversations like, oh, they're doing great. Life is all great, right? So for the person listening to our conversation right now, and really, Tim, for the executives and the athletes who, are trusting, shows like this, trusting their coaches, what have you, to help them. In your leadership journey, I'm curious if you could speak to some failure or pressure that forced you to lead differently. Because again, the people listening to the show, they're trusting, us in this conversation, people around them to help them overcome something or
Right.
get better at something. But we don't talk about failure enough. We talk about all the good stuff, but we're not willing to talk about the tough stuff. So I'm curious, did you have a failure or a pressure that really you could pinpoint and go, JR, honestly, guys listening today, this really caused me to change?
Yeah. I will say I have multiple failures, and you talk about all the time, JR. I mean, and the key for all of us is to learn from those, right? And then you build in what can I learn from it? How do I build my resilience muscle to get back and then drive forward? I think one of the biggest challenges I had was when I came into the role, we were plateauing financially, and plateauing on a lot of sense, like engagement of our people and things like that. And we really were starting to turn the ship, and we got a couple of years of good momentum, and it was hard because change is hard, and that transformational change especially. But we were making progress, and then I think all that hard work led me to think, okay, well, people see we know what we're doing. Let's just keep rolling out some new things. And we came around to a new fiscal year. We'd had a record year. And we're like, okay, now here's some more things we're doing. And I had not gotten sufficient buy-in for the new things. I was thinking, well, they're going to trust us, meaning our leadership team. We've had this progress. And I get it. Some organizations more top down. And you maybe don't have to get that, but I had to get that buy-in. And so it was just a reminder to me that I can't get complacent. I can't get, arrogant. I wasn't really arrogant, but I can't just assume, oh, because we've had success, then everyone's just going to follow me everywhere I go. I really have to build those relationships, build that trust in really those big changes, those big transformative changes. So that was one area where I just was getting a little bit too confident that we were doing everything and everyone was just going to come along. And I had to continue to think about that. I've got to build these followers to follow me. That's one of the roles of a leader. You get people to follow you, to really believe in you. And I'd done that, but then I can't just assume on that. So that was one big failure. Another area that I really struggle with is I tend to be on that end of the spectrum as a leader where I want everyone to like me. And I want to, and I just assume like everyone's ultimately going to get to the right spot of a decision or right of a choice. And then I try to, I'm not as forward, I'm not as direct sometimes. And I've gotten that feedback, and I try to work hard about that. And of course, you can be direct with compassion, and I'm trying to do that.
Sure.
But there have been some instances where there were some hard decisions I had to make and then communicate with respect to individuals. high performing individuals for particular leadership role or whatever. And I probably should have gone to not probably I should have gone to them earlier to say, hey, I'm seeing some challenges about you really stepping into that role. Here's what I'm hearing. Here's what I'm
Yeah.
seeing. Instead of
Yeah.
it being like they're expecting that they might get it and then just say, oh, well, we decided to go a different direction because I didn't want to have that hard discussion earlier. So I've learned that it gets back to communication, that open
Mm.
communication and building it in. So I really think, and even though it's hard, and that's what I think that a lot of people on the call or on your audience probably have those tough decisions. I've found that the earlier I come up and address them, and again with compassion and talking through factually and what's going on, that I think that's a better scenario than just dropping something on somebody that is totally unaware that that's coming. But those are a couple big ones.
Well, Tim, I got to say thank you
Yeah.
because you mentioned the people pleasing struggle.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
again, people see your title, people see where you're at, people see all your accomplishments. Immediately easy to assume, oh, this guy's confident. He's no, but like
It is
he's
right.
a leader. Everyone follows him. But that people pleasing bug in all of us, it's in all of us. I don't
Right.
care who you are.
Yeah.
It's in all of us. It's real. So Tim, I would love for you to speak to how are you, and I can't use the word how are you overcoming it
Right.
because it's a constant battle. How are you managing that inside out leadership where it's like, here's who I am, this is who I am as a leader, I'm going to project that. How do you manage that versus the constant making sure leadership's happy and shareholders are happy? And
Right.
how do you manage that?
Yeah, well, and it has been it's a hard road, and I continue to learn. As you said, you don't just all of a sudden, come over that. Some of it is I do think you have to build those authentic relationships and be authentic yourself. I don't put any varnish on who I am, and like when I make mistakes or that, my family loves to go to Disney World, and I can be a little quirky about stuff like that. I want them to know who I am, and I really I've spent a lot of time investing in getting to know our shareholders. I talk about something like around breaking bread and sharing things. I like to get together over meals, get to know each other so that they get to know how I tick and I get to know how they tick. But then
Sure.
organizationally, so I mean, I think that's some of the groundwork that we all can do better at. Organizationally, then I want to make sure that I'm making sure that I'm not in a echo chamber. I want to make sure I get voices speaking in about feedback and different approaches. And I want to, if we're doing some big new ambitious goal, I want to make sure that I've got people bought into it. But then I have to
Yeah.
really I have to force myself almost to put that helmet on of I've got to do what's in the best interest of the organization, the 1,300 people, and individual shareholders are going to be mad at me. But as long as I've talked through it with people, I know the why behind why we're doing it, and it is in the best interest of the organization, then I can, and then listen to them and talk through them about it. That's one
Yeah.
thing. I had
Yeah.
one of our young associates reach out about, she was a little disappointed about one of our decisions recently. And I said, I think your thoughts are very appropriate. And I actually agree personally with some of them. Let's talk. And so I spent 30 minutes talking with her. And that just helped. I mean, she wasn't trying to change my mind, but she wanted to understand a little bit more about that. And I got a nice thank you note from her today. Still didn't
Mm.
change the decision, but I was listening to her. So those are some tips and things I've tried to do, but it's a daily, struggle to work on.
What is, because again, I mean, I'm dealing with actually this moment, Major League Baseball player
Huh.
who is constantly worried about what the fans think, what the general manager thinks, Tim, what was the mindset
Mm.
shift you had to make to help you become a better leader and to help you basically shut off the worry about what others think? Again, I know it's a constant
Yeah.
challenge, right? But I'm curious the mindset shift that you had to make to manage that better.
Well, and it really was as I was stepping into the role. It's like I have a obligation now to more people than just myself or my friend group or my little individual team I'm practicing with. Um, it is. I think that's exactly right. It's the mindset, and I have to know that there's a lot of noise out there, and I have to be confident in myself, not arrogant, but confident in the direction we're going. And again, I've built that by knowing I've got a lot of feedback on what we're doing. We've got a vision. I'm executing the vision. and making mistakes. But I've gotta really stay true to what are my North Star values? What are the North Star values of our firm? What are we
Mm,
trying to accomplish? And then I do want to listen to the noise. I mean, if in my case, if it's I want to hear what they're saying, but I can't take my eye off the ball of what my priorities are and what we're driving towards. Um, so it's interesting, with the athlete. I think I work with adults with special needs, and I teach them some on the weekends. And one of them came in, and I was talking about this idea of stillness, kind of like what we're talking about, like you need some time. And she's like, "What does stillness mean?" And she had noise canceling headphones around her neck because
mm.
sometimes people, friends with special needs, they need some time. And so I've actually bought myself a pair of noise canceling headphones for myself on my desk to just remind me. There's sometimes all of us need to put those on and put the
Oh, it's
noise
so
outside
good.
of us. And so maybe for that athlete, that may be part of it. Not, I mean, maybe they actually get a pair of them, but just
Yeah.
saying, I'm confident. I'm here. I'm playing in the MLB because I'm
Yeah.
talented. The people believe in me. I know my skills. I just need to focus on what I do best. And boy, it hurts. I mean, we just came through our feedback series and we got like 1,300 comments on our engagement survey, and some of them are like, "Oh, I think Tim should be fired." Like one of them was, and then there's a lot of positive. You just got to put that noise aside, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And focus on what I do best. And anyway, hopefully that
No,
helps.
it's great, and you mentioned values.
Yeah.
When we get deep into the discussion around people pleasing and just worrying about what others think, it's really at the root an identity issue.
No,
And what's at the root of identity is your values, and the fact that I just heard you say, be in tune with my values, be in tune with my firm's values, and then filtering things through that. That is a mindset. Like
right,
I'm leading with my values first.
right, right.
So that's good. That's good. By the way, it made me think of. Are you a baseball fan at all,
I
Tim?
do. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, I'm scared to ask you what your team is. What
Well,
what is your
I told
team?
you where I was born, right? Or I said I was from Philadelphia.
Yeah. Okay, so you're a Phillies guy?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I was worried that I was going to get Mets or something like that. No offense to all my Mets friends over there. So I interviewed her on the show, Lindsay Berra. She is Yogi Berra's granddaughter,
Oh wow.
and she's just become a friend. And she mentioned something Yogi said to her that, Tim, I've probably repeated 100 times, and made me think about you and your role as a CEO and that associate who approached you. Yogi Berra's thing was, I'm always going to show up to the stadium as if I'm the best player on the field,
Mm.
but no one is ever below me.
Oh, I love that. Right.
And I was like, oh, that's cool. I'm going to show up as I'm the best guy in this room, but no one, not the janitor, not the guy selling popcorn, no one else is below me. We're all equal.
Yeah.
I was like, that reminds me. I mean, that's leadership, and obviously that's exactly what happened with this associate and you.
Well, right, and I love that quote. I mean, I need to write that down because when I became CEO, they had like a video to. I mean, I was going to be in a 6-month transition, but they did a welcome to the like introducing me. Although I knew a lot of people because I've been here for a while. But that's what I said. The only way we're going to succeed as an organization and thrive as an organization is if all 1,300 of us show up as leaders. And have that confidence that we are, and we have to do it all together. Now, as you know, a lot of attorneys thinks it's us and them, right? I've got a law degree, you have to listen to
Oh,
me,
I
but
know.
we've
I
really worked
know.
hard to make that, to say, look, we got folks here who are professional, who know more than you in their area of expertise. We have to work together. So I love that mental that
Oh,
approach to showing up
yeah.
like that.
Yeah. I'm so glad she
It's so
dropped that.
good.
By the way, if you caught me, I'm laughing what you said about attorneys.
Yeah.
I'm laughing. This is just an extra little laughing point for my audience too. I recently got hired for a keynote, and uh, Tim, our contract is so simple. It's like, right, okay. So I get it back, and it gets forwarded back to me with all these red lines, and no joke. So again, went to law school, practiced as an attorney for a little bit. I emailed back the meeting planner. I said, did an intern write this? And I got an email back. We're very sorry. Yes.
Oh,
But
how funny.
but again, as a young attorney, it was like it's me versus them, me versus them.
Right.
That's not how life works.
And it's not how the most successful organizations work in Tim's view. I mean, there may be examples otherwise, but I think that the way that you're going to, really grow and you're going to have engagement and you're going to have purpose, the idea that people see that they're investing in something more important.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yeah, so good. All right, Tim. Gosh, man, this has been a great interview. I don't want to end it, but I do want to bring this up because you launched a nonprofit called Everyone Leads
Yep.
that's empowering people in underserved communities. First of all, I got to celebrate you for that. I got to honor you for that, Tim.
Yeah.
That's just amazing work when I saw you were doing this.
Yeah.
I'm curious, what have you learned about unleashing leadership and leadership skills in people who don't see themselves as leaders?
Yeah, it's a great question. I appreciate your kind comments, JR. I mean, it's really been fascinating because it really grew out of seeing that a lot of organizations are doing great work teaching basic life skills, like for individuals coming back out of prison, maybe, or that they got off track in high school and now they're learning how to, get a commercial driver's license or beautician license. And so they're doing great work. They're helping people, some for homeless organizations are helping get, driver's license to then get a job. But that second level of coaching and teaching that I don't think that is really happening because they just don't have the bandwidth is, okay, now you've got a job. What about teamwork? What about conflict resolution? And a lot of us haven't been taught that, growing up. So what I have learned is there's a real hunger from individuals to want to learn this. And that's when, and they haven't had access to it. Of course, like you said, nowadays you can get stuff online and everything, but they just haven't had that structure to do it. So I've just found a real resilience because most of the people I've been working with are individuals who have somewhere, and we all get off track, but somewhere got off track of what they wanted to do, what their dreams were. Now they're back on track, and it's just like this hunger to want to get better. And it's like it's been great to look at it through their eyes because a lot of times us that have been in, that have been in leadership for a while, and maybe we get jaded eyes or we have a lot of baggage assumptions about things. And so I've just been impressed with the resilience and just the desire to learn. And it's also a challenge to me, to all of us, I think, as leaders, that to really invest in those next generations, right? Because we do have a benefit of having learned a lot and having walked through a lot of really great opportunities.
I'm curious, while we're there, Tim, was there anything that you took from working with these people that, we talked about work-life harmony.
Yeah.
What have you learned from them specifically that if you could take from them and bring it to the leadership room in a seminar, JR seminar now on the show that I'm putting you on the spot, like what could you take from that? What can we learn from them that would allow us to have better work-life harmony?
It is interesting, and it's not universal. And of course, with any group I've taught with or led these lessons with, but a lot of them are so focused on discipline because they have seen what happens when they get off track, and now they're there and they're really committed to it, and they know that it's going to take the hard work. It's going to take saying no to some things that aren't part of that sort of, my words, their top vital priorities to drive to their goals. And I think that's where a lot of us, maybe as leaders, we get complacent. Going back to that earlier discussion, I can get complacent on my disciplines because I think, I've got this. I've been doing this for, decades. And then I realize before long, I'm in a spiral. I'm not getting outside. I'm not sleeping well. I'm eating more than I need to eat. I'm gaining weight. And then I'm not as energetic at work. And then it's like, okay, I got to start over again. It's kind of a fresh newness to it for them.
It's interesting you mentioned them learning how to say no.
Yeah.
Boy, there's a leadership skill.
And it's hard. I mean, I struggle with it. I mean, with back-to-back calls all day, every day, it seems like I need to say no better. But no, you're right. That's a whole nother lesson.
Yeah. The art, I want to write a book. It's called The Art of Saying No. I mean, it's just.
I'd buy it.
Wait, shoot! I might write
Pre-order it. Yeah.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, to hell with Tim's book. We're going to come out with a pre-order.
The art of saying no.
But there is an art to it, and maybe I should write the book because I'm a little brash sometimes, to the point where I've had friends, peers, like, Jared, why is it that your first answer is always no? And honestly, my comment to that is, because if I'm not 100% confident in a yes, then I'm saying no.
that should be the first chapter of the book, because I think you're right, and I don't have that skill at the level you do based on how you just described it. But you're right. If it's not something that it's well, I actually had my coach said, I had a sticky note for a couple of years. If it's not a hell yes, it's a no.
It's a hell no.
Right. And it's hard, but that you got to, for the high performers that listen to your show. I mean, it's a good reminder to me. So yeah.
Yeah, this is so good. So good. All right, Tim, speaking of your book, now we are going to talk about your book because I want to share more about your book, where they could find it, where we can find you. Of course, everything will be in the show. If you're listening, everything will be in the show notes at comingupclutch.com. Just head on over there. You'll see everything there. But Tim, I'm going to put you right on the spot. Why should my listener buy your book right now?
Yeah, because
why should they buy it?
The way the book is structured is that every individual, whether you're a mom trying to do better, leading your family, or you're in the nonprofit, or you're the head of an organization, it's really focused on practical tips that anyone anywhere on your journey can get better at every day, through lessons learned, through mistakes, through hard knocks, and just like I said, I've been reading leadership materials for probably 30 years now, after I got challenged that I needed to step up as a leader. So it's just trying to take the best of everything I've learned, how I've applied it. It's not Tim wisdom. I'm not going to say I'm the smartest guy in the shed, the tool in the shed, but it's things that have worked in practice and things that didn't work in practice and how I adjusted it. So I think it's going to be really practical for you to get better in your journey.
That's good. Well, I mean, I love me a book that's got some good practical tips and tools and things I can implement now.
Yeah. And hopefully some engaging stories. I mean, it's really built around stories and not just like, the bullet points of do this, do that. It's more like, the story. So
that's great. That's great. All right. Well, where do we find it? Where do we find it, Tim?
Yeah, well, I know it's going to be in your show notes, but it'll be on Amazon. Blue Hat Publishing's putting it out, so we'll have a link.
Perfect.
Your listeners can get a discount. We'll give you the link to get a discount on that. And then I'm at bakerdonelson.com. I love talking to people, love interacting. I'm on LinkedIn and Instagram and Facebook, so you can interact there. So love to get to talk to you.
LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and then you have your own podcast as well, correct?
Right, and it's called Everybody Leads. I'm not the most original person, but I mainly talk to executives or executive directors of nonprofits and just talking about their leadership journey. So, yeah.
Cool. All right, sweet. Again, if you want access to Tim and get the stinking book, go to comingupclutch.com. Everything will be there, including the code to get your discount in the book. So thank you for generously giving us that discount, Tim. I appreciate that.
Sure.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Okay, big domino time. You survived an interview with me, so now it's a big domino. Did you ever read the book called The One Thing?
I have not.
Keller Williams, CEO.
Okay, I've not. I'm
gonna
write that down.
So it's I think it's been out for 20 plus years, but he asked this question in the context of goal setting. It's like, what's the one thing that you can do, this week, this month, today, whatever, that by doing it would make everything easier or unnecessary. So I'm like, I love that question. And I've turned it into a big domino question here, Tim. So again, what's that one key takeaway? And it may be something you already said to us today, but the one key takeaway that you want to make sure my audience walks away with today. And again, it's that thing that when they execute on this, it makes everything else just a little bit easier or unnecessary when it comes to leading better.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to cheat a little bit because it's one word, but it's an acronym. So there you go. But I do think in the uncertainty and the complexity of our world today, I really want all of us to think about that we need to show up every morning with some courage. Because I think it's a really we have to do some courageous leadership in this time. And my acronym for courage is I want us to be confident. I remind myself of this every morning. I want to show up confident, not arrogant, but confident that I'm in the right role at the right time and I can lead. The O is I need to be out front. That's one thing that it's easy sometimes. If I'm not taking care of myself, I want to put my head in the sand and not show up. But I need to show up and be out front. I need to be unshakable. We're going to have setbacks every day. And so I think courageous leadership is about being unshakable. We need to be resilient. As I said, we're going to have setbacks. We need to make mistakes, learn from them, and move forward. I want to be adaptable as the A. because everything's so, complex and challenging. What does it mean? How does that impact my business? How does it impact me? G, growth mindset. You talk a lot about JR, about mindset. I'm a firm believer that mindset is so critical. I know you've been doing more research in that. And then the E is encouragement. And not just, encouragement to yourself that you've got this, but I find that when I'm giving encouragement to others, that it helps me to be really more focused, to be grateful for the role I'm in, and to have this opportunity to lead an organization, and whether you're leading a team or even yourself. So I guess I would say, show up with courage every day and remind yourself of that every day, because we need great leaders. We need people that are listening to your show to really show up and be their best in this world today.
That's so good, man. Talk about a mic drop to end the podcast. I'm a big acronym fan.
Well, see, we're gonna come up with when we hang out, we're gonna come up with all these new acronyms, right?
Oh no! Wait, let me rephrase what I said earlier. 2 Italian attorneys from the South get together who are visionaries, who have a lot of ideas. That'll put us in the psych ward if we keep hanging out.
That's right.
Love it. Tim, so much fun with you today. Thank you for sharing your wisdom, your heart, getting behind the curtain a little bit with your personal life. I just really appreciate you coming on today.
JR, it's a real thrill. This has been the highlight of my week, just getting to spend some time with you. And I really want to thank you for what you're doing, because you are changing the world, in the sense you're changing the lives of individuals that you're working with and who are listeners on your podcast. And it really, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for all you're doing.
Oh gosh, Tim, it's an honor, and look, we get to do it together and collaborate. Yeah. This is the one thing I love about having a show like this. I get to hang out with people like you, and we get to do this thing together and impact lives together. So appreciate you, my man. Appreciate you. Good. All right, crew, that's my man, Tim, or I should say my Polish friend, Tim Lupinacci. Now, here's the deal. If you were blessed by today's episode, if you learned something is going to make you better, my ask is you pay it forward. Share this episode with someone you love and care about. Come up clutch for someone in your life that you know needs to be encouraged by what Tim shared today. And again, if you want the show notes from today's episode, just go to comingupclutch.com and click on this episode. All right, this episode is a wrap. Until next week's 5-minute drill, remember, winning isn't a result, it's a lifestyle. So keep pursuing that life of champions.
This episode is over. Get more No BS content to help you master your mind, body, and relationships by hitting subscribe. This is Coming Up Clutch with JR. Thanks for listening.